Good day and welcome to today's conversation podcast. Today we got literally literal. I'm hosting Dr. Sydney Muponda. He's an accomplished publisher. He's a writer, he's an educator, he's a corporate leader with a passion for culture, identity, leadership, and governance. As you have seen, I've got a pile of books before me, books that have been published by Southern publishers. And, the man behind this publishing company is Dr. Sydney Muponda. Dr. Muponda, welcome to today's conversation podcast.
Thank you, Ambassador. I'm glad to be part of this conversation and join the rest of the citizens of Zambia and the citizens of the world just to have this conversation.
Oh, wonderful. Briefly tell us about yourself before we go to your published works and your own writing.
Okay, Sydney Muponda, a citizen of the Republic of Zambia. I have my roots from Kasama and born, and most of the time I think I spent my childhood with my mother and grandparents. I had to reconnect later with my father. I think by then I think I was 24. That's when I had to reconnect to my father. But not to feel pity, because I love that story, because that story changes how I look at life.
Oh, you didn't grow up with your father?
No, I didn't.
You didn't know your father?
No, until when I was 24. But that's actually created the giant in me to a great extent. I went to school at Chafwa Primary in Kasama. I went for a week to David Kaunda and never reported, went back to Kasama Boys because boarding, I think, didn't seem like I could make it. I did my grade 10 at Kasama Boys, one term at Kafue Boys, back to Kasama Boys. That's where I finished my education. Then thereafter, I did a number of my short courses just to get soft skills. But later on, I had to have a stint in the religious life in the Catholic Church. And that saw me go to Ghana and did scripture and human development as well as cross-cultural studies for 2 years. And I was back, worked a bit in Lukulu, then went to Kwame Nkrumah University, did my first degree there in civic education and physical education and sports. I went back to Nkrumah a bit as a tutor, but it couldn't stand because by 2016, I'd started a passionate journey of forming a network for society transformation. It had come to my mind that we needed to have citizens who have a different way of looking at life and promoting the agenda for a genuine service to the nation. So with that, I had to come back to Lusaka, where I started pursuing the issues of the organization that came up to be Network for Society Transformation with the agenda and the mindset that I'm part of the solution. And the core focus is the things that you have highlighted that I'm passionate about, is the issues of identity, individual as correct and collective identity. If we are grounded in that, then we are also looking at the aspect of leadership and issues to do with our own cultural heritage. So, and national values falls into that. So those become the things that I'm passionate about. So I went further to do in 2006, 2018. While I was pursuing that, I was also doing my master's in literacy and development. And later, 2020, picked up to do the doctorate. But along the way, all these bits, it has been an interesting part of service to the nation, as well as interacting with many people. Something little private. Got married last year. I have 3 months and 2 weeks son.
Oh,
first
congratulations.
Son. Yeah.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Wonderful, and congratulations to...
And I hope many people are calling him at the president.
Why?
Yeah. Seems assertive, and then other people ask me that, do you intend to go in politics? And I tell them, no, I'm fighting for a space where people would do politics differently if we had to go politics, but we want to have passionate citizens. We are just open to save their nation.
You are a writer,
Yes.
and sometimes we draw inspiration from the adversity we go through,
Yes.
or challenges that we go through, or opportunities that we go through. You raised a very fundamental issue that I'm passionate about. You're saying that you grew up without your father. How did that impact you? I raise that issue because it's a big issue in the life of individuals.
Yeah, and I did a book. I didn't come with it. I've done a book, Eating the Absent Parent Void. And in that book, it takes up the responsibility that society has. And we need to get clearly to define the law of women as well as men, mothers and fathers. I was impressed to see on Sunday one of the quotes that was trending from Bishop Joe Imakando, saying, because we have absent parents, we have no fathers, we have a lot of junkies. There are certain elements that later in life, through personal development and reflections, that are to learn that, first of all, when I was living with my mother had to tell me, you are the man of the house. So I had to work around the concept that I needed to man up. As early as grade 5, I would go to work in our own field up to maybe 11:40. The next thing I need to go and do piecework to provide for what I could need just to being a boy. And but of course, one of the things that I appreciate, especially my mother, is she taught me the element of being selective of where I find myself. What do I want it to be? But it says, okay, I wanted to be a man who have an impact. Then who have sometimes conversation and draw up the agenda. Sometimes I'll get beaten up like, okay, is this what is going to make you become what you have been talking about? And one thing she's now reminding me is when I said, when I start studying, it will not stop until after 30. And then, of course, she had to learn later that I was doing my doctorate. she is proud of that, but she didn't know that I was actually, I would say I'm going to school, but not what I was pursuing, she wouldn't understand.
She didn't know.
She didn't have that. Yeah, so basically, it's this absence that, for me, I had to side on the side of taking responsibility. Because the aspect of taking responsibility, even if when we err, becomes an important component. I've written a lot about even the journey with my father until the time we got very close between 2009 and 2012 when he died, sadly, that time. But we got to have conversations on the fears and other issues that he had around taking responsibility, the interference of other family members, and all. But as much as we want to give excuse and when one takes responsibility of the action and the decisions that we make, love should always win. Yeah, so it's a serious issue that even when you talk about the issues of national values, I think family should be the core of our conversation. Numbers, the economics, yes, they are important, but if we do it right at a home, we are going to have a army or a cadre or a generation of patriotic people who have a similar value system. I think this has worked for other countries that have prioritized families and family life, as it were. But the message I have, especially to young people, because many people...
Young boys
especially.
Speak to that young boy that may not know the father, or the father is totally absent.
Yeah, there is a lot, like in this life, I have this, you are on your own and you're not on your own. You take responsibility. Our background should not define how far we would go and where we are going. So, and these challenges, as in Bemba we say, it's a matter of saying, okay, if I don't have a parent around, Should I sentence myself to life like I'm a mistake? No. I'm not responsible of what had happened with that, but I'm very much responsible of what the decision I make today and the kind of future I want to live and how I want to be perceived by society. With that, it has come also very keen for me in terms of one's identity. Ambassador, you are given Emmanuel Mwamba. It meant nothing as it were, but along how you have lived your life, you have created a certain name that how society will perceive you. And among those is where you would choose what kind of character do I need to be known for? What kind of presentation and image do I want society to have of me? As you would have read, other people and even you were calling doctor, it's not for me, the title is not so much about prestige, but what do I do with it? So it becomes with that the privileges that society will bring because of the impact that I have, sometimes not to push for fame, but just to have an impact that I leave a mark on the person I come in contact with or the people who come in contact with our works.
Writing,
yes.
Writing, and Sotren publishers. How did you write your first book, and why did you think that you should set up a publishing firm?
Okay, so first of all, I have had this desire and yearning that I haven't come on earth to just be part of the statistics. Yeah. So with that, I need to do something with my life that will impact people. So in the work, as I mentioned, that I had a stint in the religious life. I was with the Christian brothers.
Did you want to be a priest?
No, just to be a brother.
Ah, okay.
Yes. So I was part of that brotherhood. And when I was in Ghana, I met, like West Africa's seasoned writers. So I would interact with people when I was doing cross-cultural studies with some of the great writers that exist. I met the son of the author of Beautiful Ones Are Not Yet Born. So in that conversation, then an interaction with the people who were passionate in that area, when they sampled what I would write, and I'm also responsible of writing the blog, when that came up, she said, you could write. There's a way you just carve things and craft stuff. Then when I came back, I worked closely with Brother McKean. He helped me do my Facebook, which was gradually in 2011 picked up by Curriculum Development Center. Getting that job you're looking for was the initial title, and later on I had to do another version, Gateway to the Job You're Looking For. Yeah, or the job you like. It became that conversation. So I had to do a reflection. Why do I want to write? Is to influence opinion, to give a direction to a certain level of what kind of a world I desire, and also to be an agent of change. So when it came to 2011, the Wind and the Windmill is the 2016 is I was working on the Wind and the Windmill.
Yes.
And that book for me is one of the masterpieces that I think I contributed to the society, that citizens were the windmill, and the windmill we are the wind, and the windmill, which is about leadership at any level, be it in a home, be it in a company, and it's leadership as one area that will always dance to the direction of the wind.
The wind.
Yeah, as it were. So as I did that, I came to terms that we have the power to contribute to society. And when Network for Society Transformation came up, we had the philosophy of sitting down to promote mindset change using indigenous systems. And indigenous systems, as you would know, when be it in Luvale, where they are doing the training of the rite of passage, in all our kind of ethnic groupings in Zambia, if not the entire Africa, there is a way that at the right time, certain conversations are held with young people in preparation for life. So that is kind of the model we had taken. But as we did 2016, 2017, came to 2018, and in April, we had done a multilingual national anthem and presented to Dr. Kaunda. And at that time, also Dr. Kaunda had read The Wind and the Windmill. And one of the reflections I had made on his life is that while he remained a good man and had an impact, he had allowed the citizens or the followers to make him a monster out of it. And then he said, "Nobody has told me this, young man." Mm-hmm. Then there are a few things he said. He said, "Your constituency is too small." And those words for me kind of challenged me in a huge time that I had to think, how could I reach out to other people? And this led to setting up of a department that we needed to start writing books. And that was 2018 July. And we formally registered on 6th of July, but we do our anniversary on the 7th of July. And this year will be 6. And the reason we came in is that unless the lion learns how to tell its own story, the story always glorifies the hunter. Mm. As much as we send our works outside for publishers who are established, they always redefine how they want ourselves to be known or how we want to talk about ourselves. Mm. So we need something that is indigenous. Mm-hmm. And our focus, Ambassador and the people listening to our conversation, is about telling indigenous stories that are socially relevant to Zambia and Africa. Yeah. Not that we don't like ideas that can come from elsewhere, but we want to celebrate us. We want to document us. So we want to promote our heritage and our identity through the publications. And it's from there that the publishing house came to life. Of course, the publishing house also was responding to the challenge that the nation is faced with. At the time of independence, just to give a little bit of an overview, at the time of independence, we had the publications coming from outside ourselves. And few publications then came in with now ZEF, where KK Foundation and others, which produced content for the nation to consume, that were speaking of us and really telling our own stories. But at that time also, the weakness in that phase was that because of the moderate censorship, the writings were not so deep to speak to certain areas. As it were, because people were afraid of being charged of rebel and other issues or inciting citizens, as it were. But there are still most creative pieces that were produced around that time. But when it came to the liberalized economy, I think that affected the publishing sector, that the nation is still failing to even recover, that we can't compete with the people around ourselves, that when people came on the market, we saw even the private companies, including Longman and others, leave because the sector seemed to have failed to compete with others. So our coming in as software publishers then came to, we have to be part of the solution and do whatever we could to ensure that we have quality content, deep in terms of research of that content. We're also looking at the aspect that it's affordable, but sometimes we have no control because the challenges of power and machinery to produce these resources in terms of paper and ink, they are on the expensive side. So we may not fully control the cost of this production.
The bias of your books towards Dr. Kaunda, why Dr. Kaunda?
It's not so much about Dr. Kaunda. Yes, I could have picked up, maybe speaking to Dr. Kaunda. We have over 128 titles.
Okay.
The major aspect, as I mentioned, is as we are talking about leadership and the model where we are coming from of mentorship, we need to profile positive role models. So we have a lot of our publications are dominated by biographies, autobiographies, and those books that are talking about governance and history is the major dominating kind of component. But we have also fiction and books for children, and those books that are going in the education system. We have, out of the 128 I've spoken about, we have 10 of our publication approved for use in the Zambian system. Because also, one of the things that we do is the advocates that unless we are learning the things that are within our context, the relevance is lost. Because we will be studying other people's cultures, which is not our culture. Yeah, and you were saying like the aspect of Kaunda comes up in terms of him representing his generation. There are three major value systems that we can pick from that Kaunda's generation had. They are the transformative mindset. They never went to school as I, but they had to set up a university. And certain infrastructure that are still existing. They are thinking, they could have actually survived with just oak pathways. I think they could even be surprised that we have the roads that we can't even recognize. We have spaces where people could do a bicycle ride and walk, but their thinking was completely different in terms of their mindset. Then they had service at heart. In terms of national values, now we have even enshrined them in the Constitution, Article 6, 8, and 9, speaking to the issues of national values and principles. But these guys, as we go back to reflect on the forefathers and mothers, for them, they lived that lifestyle. Their lifestyle was based on values. And then they had selfless service. I think most of them they walked out, including Kaunda, not with so much. So we are just saying, when you're talking to a young person, most of the time they would say, can you give me an example? Even those who are Christians, the Bible, people will be asking for a sign. So it's not so much about Kaunda, it's that generation that we are looking at their lives.
Leading light in that generation.
Yes.
I've seen wonderful books by Dr. Kasuka Simwinji Mutukwa. He was seated where you are. I've seen wonderful books that you've published. For example, this one, My Trodden Path, an autobiography by the former Chief Justice Lombe Chivesa Kaunda, a luminary in the legal fraternity.
Yes.
How do they trust you? How do they trust you with their manuscript? How do you go? Just speak to that process.
Okay. One of the commodity, as I mentioned earlier, like even the benefit of my growing up is to kind of sharpen my character. The initial thing that I trade with anyone before we talk about the book and the experience and all is trust. So I'm trustworthy. So I present myself just as that. That I genuinely would love to help you get the work out. And also we get open, like in the publishing process, when somebody sends in the manuscript, as it were, we communicate clearly whether, so we have gone in, because of the cost that goes with publishing, we have gone in with an hybrid model. So those we are not able to do traditional publishing or commissioned where the publisher does everything and the author is put on loyalties, we have the cost-sharing model, which has worked greatly for many, that we contribute in and the author puts in, and then we manage them beyond what we have done. And what people has trusted our brand is that even if the author they're on the shy side, they seem they are off the limelight, we bring value to turning ordinary people to extraordinary, especially people who have extraordinary stories. People have, like you have picked up Dr. Mutukwa, My Trodden Path. The media may paint different stories in different ways, but these are the people who have had a positive life and impact. They have had a good journey and service to the nation and humanity. So it's where we are going to use this to become, I call myself more than anything else a storyteller. So I tag on other storytellers so that our stories get to be told. And they receive maximum support along the publishing journey in terms of doing all the technical services, as well as in terms of marketing within the limited resources that we could afford. Sometimes we think we could do more. But also in terms of distribution, even if it's a challenge to have a lot of bookstores, within ourselves and our network that we have built across the country, we have 16 outlets where we take books so that people have access to them. So it's the value that we bring to them that I think puts up people to trust. And I think we have gained quite trust with eminent people within our society that have trusted us with their work.
Yeah.
And as certain publishers, what we get to be trusted for, beyond myself being knowledgeable and our team coming together, ours is 3 things that I've made us relevant. We have the solution to the people who are struggling to write, that we even offer the service of ghostwriting for some. Mm-hmm. And then we have the expertise to offer the service at an affordable rate where possible, and where we could, we go an extra mile in our service to ensure that the nation has the quality literature that will help tell our story, preserve our heritage, as well as sell the nation. Because through these books, we are marketing our nation. I should mention
the falling reading culture.
Yeah.
How are you attending to it? Are you making your copies in soft copy?
Yes, and we are in the process greatly that we are investing in. Our theme come 7 July onwards is expanding horizon, empowering voices. In so doing, apart from putting the books, currently we have 58 titles on Amazon. But I should mention that most of our works, including 2 weeks ago, we had the Library of Congress, the libraries in the UK, a number of libraries outside of the continent. Mm-hmm. They are finding them very useful because they are highly researched works. Mm. So with that reach, we are also looking at creating our own infrastructure within the country. And this infrastructure is to promote not only the works published by sovereign publishers. We plan to set up the infrastructure virtually as well as physically, where we will have Zambian books accessed at an affordable rate. Mm. So this will be ebooks, audios, and some, we are looking at works like we are doing a podcast. Yeah. We need to have as much output as possible that speaks to us. And in terms of a physical infrastructure, Zambia at the moment doesn't have proper and trusted local distribution outlet for books. Yeah. And we want that to come up with, it could be just a property that where we have, this place will be an information center as well as a bookstore. And we hope people like yourselves who are different authors and literary lovers to be coming there. If it's fortnight, we have somebody coming for signing. We have somebody coming in to give a talk and a presentation. So it's something that we are passionately looking to have so that it can change the face of our art, our space. And we are glad that, yes, the creative spaces are growing, but we still don't have something solid that we could look at as a place where I could pick the book at an affordable rate. And how
would you entice young people who are now in an environment where they don't want to read books, they want to read short things, you know what Twitter and Facebook does? How do you respond to that?
We are creating platforms that, especially for those who have passion for writing, it's why you have seen one of the things that is coming up, this anthology. It's where we are creating platforms where we can create short pieces that can be published. And we are looking at, okay, every day we are publishing, like we post on Facebook, we post on different social media platforms, we are publishing, but then there's an element of quality assurance missing in that space. There is also an element of the prestige that comes that is published with an international serial book number attached to it, and having the separate copyrights that comes with the works that are going into publish, that has gone through a publishing house. So as we interact and looking at those privileges, a lot of young people actually coming up. The only challenge is the limitation of funds. We receive at a weekly basis over 50, 60 book proposal forms and requests to say, can you sponsor my work to be published? There is an aspect that as much as we would preach the concept of we have a poor reading culture, it's not very true to a great extent, especially after 2019. COVID-19 brought in some level of development in the way we look at ourselves as Africans and as Zambia. When the borders were closed, people realized we actually have a lot of solutions within. And there is a lot also of citizens who have grown up with the level of wanting to get original information. What has been very disturbing in our nation is people wanting to rely on information that is translated for them.
Yeah.
So it's what ambassador interprets a certain thing, it becomes like that, and then we begin to debate what ambassador's interpretation of a certain topic becomes. But there is a crop of citizens, especially the young ones, who want to go to the source.
Yeah.
And it's that we are capitalizing on, and it's growing that even the reading culture, if we get just the right policies and the environment that the books are affordable, where people don't start comparing, the book at 350 and the bag of meal meal the same, we'll go for a meal meal. When the environment changes, I am very hopeful. And with that, it will come with the revolution and transformation of people loving the country more.
You are launching a new book by Dr. Kaunda. You are calling it Sentinal Reflection, celebrating the life and legacy of Dr. Kenneth David Kaunda. Just speak to this book.
Okay, so this book is a contribution and a reflection of the Zambian citizens within the country and outside. This is the initiative that Sotwen came up with, and we made a public call in December that the citizens would have their reflections on the life of the man. And why is so? And just to take you back, it's not so much you consider on Kaunda. Kaunda is one of the people in 2018, we are doing intergenerational conversation. And Kaunda was the person who met the little babies, the pupils, and all this in our interaction. So not so much that we have a bias as a publisher, but UNESCO created a resolution in April last year that declared 2024 and 2025 as a year to celebrate Kenneth Kaunda among the anniversaries that the world needs to mark. And why were they doing so? For them, they are crediting Kaunda for 38 to 50 years of liberating Southern Africa. And that cause was done not by ourselves. It was done by Zimbabwe, Namibia, and South Africa. And when that, for us, seeing that the person who hails from this space is given such kind of recognition, we felt in our area as a publisher, we would give Kaunda and celebrate his legacy by asking the citizens to do a reflection. And as we are doing this reflection, as people are doing poems, people are doing essays, personal narratives, and others going to drama, we find that as a nation we are taking time to actually do an introspection. Kaunda would have turned 100 years on the 28th of April 2024.
Yes, correct.
Now, through the lens of this man, we have kind of done a reflection on ourselves.
Yeah.
And so We received 36 submissions from 30 citizens that made it to be in the anthology. And of these, they are speaking to the issues of values, the issues of principles, the issues of patriotism and nationhood. So we felt, since we didn't have the privilege of launching this book on the 28th of April, then we have looked at Kaunda as part of our heroes, and Kaunda as the man who also had two messages. If you ever encountered, you had a chance with him. It's one Zambia, one nation, love your neighbor as you love yourself. Mm. And more than ever, the nation needs a reminder of the need for unity.
Yes.
So we have set 28th of June, which is kind of just opening up the Heroes and Unity holidays to have the book unveiled. And that is just a call for us to continue making a commitment to what the man championed. But more than that is a reflection for ourselves. So we have been putting up the theme for the unveiling would be Keke, a model for national values, one Zambia, one nation.
The quality is quite high. Where do you print this from?
Okay, so these books are printed by ourselves, just in-house, within the country, except when we are doing the destined, where you have the brown paper or the art covers. Those ones we have partners that we outsource the service. But with this type, we do our own in-house printing. Yes, that is how we...
When you say in-house printing, who prints?
Just as a publisher ourselves.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, you've got equipment?
Yes, please.
Okay.
We say we got print equipment is where when you are asking that who owns it. So we have entered a partnership with somebody who has an equipment where we are learning. So it becomes part of our company business so that we take responsibility and order of the entire value chain. So it's from acquisition until the distribution of the books.
Oh, wonderful, wonderful. I think it's a good contribution to Dr. Kaunda's 100 years. Like you said, you would have 100 years. But I noticed that you've written other books, textbooks, about identity. Tell me about identity.
Okay, so...
Are you alive to the rise in issues of tribalism, in issues of regionalism? Why identity?
Identity for me is what is critical. Societies that have developed, societies that have grounded themselves even in the element of patriotism, they know who they are. I have this formula that I believe that the thought that if I know who I am comfortable of what I am, I will be able to solve anything that comes that I'm not comfortable with, because I understand my space, I understand the resources and things around me. So the issue of identity becomes very critical. From the point of view and passionate about culture and just part of me, the Pan-Africanism in element, I'm also not even comfortable with the word tribe because I think it was meant to do some kind of making to appear fetish, derogatory in matter, because our ethnic groups. So I love Zambia that we capitalize our identity on various ethnic groups as well as languages, which are over 73. And the beauty in diversity, we have a record that Zambia is a beacon of peace. Despite this diversity, it comes close to us appreciating who we are. I have a challenge that, yes, we advocate like one Zambia, one nation, and that should be the center of our conversation. But that doesn't take away my identity as coming out from a particular ethnic group. His Wakwa I have to be proud as such. I'm coming from the south, I'm coming from the west, from whichever part of the country. If at all, my identity will be affected if somebody tells me my tribe is Zambia. I should believe in one Zambia, one nation, but also appreciate that I am Bemba. And by being Bemba, I also appreciate that, oh, this one is Lozi and is a brother. And then because I appreciate where I come from and I have an appreciation of another, then we appreciate what joined us, what brings us together. And we celebrate that in diversity because we form the mosaic, and the mosaic looks completely different from one single color.
Yeah, correct.
So that's what's supposed to be the core aspect of this identity. And our identity, like you would see in national, I was grad 2018 after the creation of the Ministry of National Guidance and Religious Affairs.
Yeah.
I was glad that I contributed with the creation of the educational materials for that department in terms of promoting national values. And one of the things that I brought to life is our identity is what is it that identifies with Zambia? Zambians are friendly, they are welcoming, they are hospitable, they are peaceful. We are not, as much as we will try, yes, not that we're supposed to be passive or what, but we suppose just I can communicate. In one of the books I write about it, Emmanuel Mwamba, the ambassador, should not transform from being a lion to become a lamb, or the lamb to turn a lion. The lamb in itself can be assertive. So it becomes that as Zambians, we need to come up with these values. What are we known for? What are we proud for? And then you find certain things, they can never get out of fashion. And regardless where I've come from, respect elders, respect other people, be tolerant. So those values become critical to what forms our identity. The only aspect we want to check is the national anthem justifies who we are. We are not supposed to be the people who are lazy. It's a land of work and joy. So it's supposed to be joyous people. So anything that comes in the way to create and remove what is there, we should fight it together in unit, regardless of where I come from. And I think Kaunda also made, just to get back to the man you're talking about, made a statement that if we, at the time of the fighting for independence, as Zambia celebrates its 60th independence, the tense period of 1951 to 1962, if there was this element of where I come from and ethnicity, I don't think they would have attained anything. Unless we are united, development will not be, it will remain a dream.
Yeah, yeah.
The drama or the theater, whatever you may call it, of national cohesion and development requires us to come together under the motto, One Zambia, One Nation.
Among the books, which one is your favorite?
That's a tough one. My own books or for the publishing house? That's a tough one.
Which one is highly requested among the books you've published?
Among the, of course, these things are seasonal.
Yeah.
Traditional Zambian Etiquette by Marita Banda came with a bang, and it got even...
What does it talk about?
It speaks about just issues of decorum and manners, but then we are speaking from the aspect of tradition and also how we can do it for modern living, because you're living in a global space. And it got the attention that it's one of the books that are recommended at the ZIDIS. Yes.
Ah, okay.
Yes.
For diplomats.
For diplomats, training and protocol issues, because it just gives us that we need to conduct ourselves in a particular, in a certain manner. Yeah, and then we had, despite the bruises by Maria Cirilo, just for those who love fictional works of fiction, I think it has been one of the greatest. The other one, especially the biographies, the one by former Chief Justice Kaunda, and then Destined by Mary Mlenga, because she seems to write against the norm. There are certain things people who would read they didn't expect. Like the person who has been 8 years at the helm of NGOCC and a feminist and coming out strongly to say, look, feminism is not anti-cultural and how you position yourself. And then also she brings out, like, in the quest of corporate women and women who are pushing feminism, they're actually destroying society. And the social power that a woman possesses is something that we cannot trade with anything. Yeah, so it's among those. And then, interestingly, one which is not out, for me, it's what gives me great hope and energy. For a child who is 10 years old, responds to the issues of climate change, and then she writes the book about Mwamba the tree, speaking to raising awareness around climate change and our behavior and how it is affecting that. So for me, that's one of the greatest things that I think there is a great hope for our nation and the generations to come. Yeah.
You have the launch for Dr. Kaunda's book. When is it?
Okay, so the
anthology.
The anthology. So the anthology will be launched on the 28th of June in the evening at the Lusaka National Museum. And this evening, it is coming together as a nation and different stakeholders to, as I've mentioned, beyond the unveiling of the launch, we are also looking at how do we continue to remind ourselves to recommit to the elements of national unity, the elements of celebrating ourselves and heroes that have existed within our space and others. And then I think we cannot only always continue, like you are saying, celebrating the heroes that have passed by. More importantly is how do we, or do we even have the capacity to acknowledge the heroes that are still around us? Because this generation needs to bring up and recognize its own heroes.
What should be done to writing and the publishing industry? We had, the Zambia Publishing House, which we talked about earlier, which died. It was deliberately created to support publishing of local works, and that we could have works that then will infuse in our literature at school, in our school curriculum. What do you think government should do? They seem to have abandoned this area.
Yeah, that's that. Just one information maybe for the launch, as you mentioned. So we were going to have honor the Vice President to grace the launch. So it's that serious, it's that, and we appreciate that government is able to come to attend to this particular event at that level, that we get to have the second office in the land to come and grace the evening. So that adds a lot of value and meaning to what we are able to achieve in terms of the aspect of unity, as well as celebrating the literary works. Now, coming to the question of what needs to be done, there is need to get serious commitments if you are to bring to life the new policy, National Arts Policy. National Arts Policy speaks well to the areas of infrastructure development. It speaks well to the aspects of creating creative spaces. However, strong and huge from the survey we conducted as a publishing house, because we have also a responsibility to lobby for a space where writers and creatives, because this is a form of employment that can be created if we have the space where we are channeling out staff. It's the literary sector as a challenge of representation. So we need to kind of form up ourselves. Some things we can do on our own and support of the corporate. But what is important is on government, as it were, is creating the environment where business would thrive in this area. And certain incentives, we have seen the incentives given if you are bringing in equipment in the country. But bringing in equipment is one and is highly commendable. But other issues within our space, some are challenges that we need to collectively address. Issues of course, you have tax, the cost of inputs that go in, the paper and the inks, as it were, becomes a challenge. And you would realize that sometimes it becomes cheaper to print books from outside, because as they are coming in, there is exemptions that comes with it. But if you bring in paper, it's treated as it's a commercial and the rates are kind of on the higher side. But sometimes what is important is we need to create a platform where we can be exchanging ideas and maybe government being receptive to proposals from the sector players, as it were. Because sometimes is where they would say, oh, we don't know that when paper comes expensive, it makes the book also expensive. And in the long run, for us who have 50 authors with 128 titles, they need to be paid. And unless the environment is conducive for selling these products, they get also to be affected and they don't see much value, as it were. But besides the aspect of the financial model and what you're able to contribute to the GDP, it is also what is lost in terms of then the contents and the materials that go in the education sector. And we remain very hopeful that government will challenge itself and others, that as we are reforming the curriculum, we need to put quite some investment in getting local content, local materials to go in. We made one loss in terms of the curriculum where we have removed the use of local language as a medium of instruction. But then there is the curriculum framework speaks strongly to decolonizing the curriculum. So we would ride on that as a publisher and many people to come on board. But beyond government, government is, as we would define it, is by the people, for the people. So the corporates, individuals, I think we need to take interest and put investment in this sector as well. Because it could be also a very good business if people just understand how publishing goes about and the books. Because we have other authors, they have great materials, they have no resources. The publisher is, but we could get, Ambassador Mwamba saying, okay, I'm going to put in 100,000, produce this number of copies, I will have 40% from each book that is sold. So you may find your 100,000 translates to 320,000.
Correct. Yeah. Dr. Muponda, as we come to the end of this reflection, and with your contribution to this book that you have done on Dr. Kaunda and many other books, what are your last words?
I have great hope for a better Zambia. And all the citizens, we have the responsibility to be part of the agents of spreading positive messages and telling our stories. In terms of the sector, I implore many of us, Ambassador and many people have saved this country, to publish before you perish. It's a great investment to tell that story that you have, because the nation needs the heritage, needs the knowledge. Sometimes this knowledge is held by individuals holding certain offices that they are not able to interact with a citizen, but when they write, it reaches the masses. So we remain positive as Southern publishers and myself as a storyteller to continue championing the telling of our stories, to ensure that our stories have a transformative influence and impact on our society, and also the society that we interact with. The beauty with writing is permanent. It cannot be eliminated. as it were.
Oh, wonderful. Thank you very much, and thank you for sparing time, and thank you for what you are doing, especially to writers who are getting fewer and fewer, but with your presence in the market, I think you will spur this growth where we should have many local books written about ourselves. We tell our own stories. I love your session that if a lion doesn't tell its story, the hunter will always be glorified. So I think until we write our own books, the stories that will be told about us will be stories from reflections by other people about us, and they will not be true, they will not be authentic. The perception and the perspective will be totally different. I love the challenge you've thrown to all of us that have stories to help build this country that we should then write. To our dear viewers, we were hosting, is a publisher, he runs with a team, a publishing house called Sotren. He is an academic, he is a writer, he is an author, he is a speaker, he is a coach, he inspires, especially even young people, and is doing the noble work of ensuring that our stories are stored in books. Other civilizations laugh at us that if you want to hide something from an African, just put it in a book, because I know we'll not get to read it. So let's challenge those sayings about us that we can actually read. Sydney Muponda, thank you very much for coming, and God bless you. God bless our country, and to you, our dear viewers, shalom, shalom.